the thing with screenwriting is you write this masterpiece and it's a pilot or it's a feature and it sits in the drawer and like maybe someone reads it and maybe it's a good calling card for you as a writer, but what are the chances of it actually getting made? And for me, it's like, well, then what am I doing? What am I doing if it's not getting made? That's the final product. Shooting right from the start was perfect. For one thing, because, I had known about this program 3 months prior. So it was like, I'm itching. I'm ready to get started and not being allowed to overthink anything, just going out and recognizing that like, yeah, you have to do it. And now it's done. And look at that. That wasn't actually so bad. I kept it from being theory. Right. What was really helpful for me was it honed in on it, like immediately it honed in on what my weaknesses were. So like, after like kind of picking myself up and dusting myself off, being like, yeah, okay. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm, at the end feeling very creatively vulnerable, but at the same time, I haven't felt like that in a while. And it's like, I need that. I need to be told like what's not working and what could be stronger. I feel like I'm only halfway through as well. Like I feel like there's so much more I can seize from the program, which is very exciting. What I keep feeling with each assignment, you shot that in a day. You've got weekends. This is actually so easy, and that makes the confidence and the fun skyrocket. My name is Oona O'Leary. I am from the Midwest, based in Chicago. Been here well over 10 years. So I've been into filmmaking, like independent filmmaking, for around 8 years. Got very into this, like found your YouTube and started shooting things with my phone, and being low budget, independently minded like that. I've been dramatically writing, plays, sketch comedy, feature films for a couple decades at least. So I would say before GTS, before I started this, the biggest challenge was just finishing. I love shooting stuff with my friends, and then things would just sit on the hard drive. It was absolutely like biting off more than I could chew and getting really overwhelmed with editing choices and music and things like that. And I think like, some confidence issues, like you just put in all of this energy into shooting a thing. And then suddenly like the panic, that little anxiety voice in the back of your head just saying like, but is it good enough? And like, did you shoot it well? That was definitely holding me back. I gave GTS a shot. I got very interested into it. One, I'd been following the Patreon kind of, watching short videos and your analysis of those. I think it came at a point where my interests lie in being really independent as a filmmaker. I knew I had some shortcomings as a filmmaker. Like I've got this background in writing, but certainly not film composition and shooting. I had done a short film and noticed that, I really liked the short film. It was lingering on my hard drive. I really do well with kind of a classroom setting and deadlines and some guidance. So all of that just felt like it dropped into my lap, really. Like, oh, there's this opportunity. And, you and I had talked about signing up for January's model rather than earlier. Filmmaking wise, I am self-taught. I did grad school for screenwriting. So there was some element of production. I took an editing course, which was really, really fun. And by the end of the semester was like, well, now I know how little I know. And that was really exciting. So it was, piecemeal here and there, getting some professional instructions in filmmaking, but otherwise very much on my own. Do you need a master's degree in screenwriting? Absolutely not. Not at all. It gave me a chance to be with really, really wonderful, creative people who I still collaborate with. Before I joined GTS, I don't know if it was like doubts about what I could accomplish in the program. I think it was more that I was like coming out, thanks to the pandemic, to just a larger existential, like, am I a writer? Am I creative? I've got this day job. I don't even know. If anything, it's like the structure was going to help me. It's not a doubt, but I definitely went in feeling like, okay, so this has to be like, GTS has to be like what I am living, breathing, sleeping. And instead I got a much better sense sense of like, yeah, things get busy. So just learn how to make like bite-sized commitments every day so you're not overwhelmed. And so it isn't this like flash flood versus dry spell. I went in just with that assumption and just accepting it. I knew like in the spring, I kind of cleared my schedule. I wasn't going to be traveling, all of these things. And so there was this idea of like, oh, I can make this all consuming, assuming it has to be. And instead what happened, which was really beneficial, was realizing like I can still make time for coffee with friends. I still have this full-time job and a hundred other small commitment things. And it was really useful because my work got extremely busy in the spring, and rather than just being racked with guilt, it was like, no, we're doing a little bit when we can. And everyone else is too. And which was also really helpful, is to have this community where people are like, yeah, I'm coming back after having a really busy semester, or like, my kids were sick for a long time and now I have this short film, and it's like, hey, great, we're all celebrating you. And so to have, we're all in the same boat of like making this work, but also making your creative life not this thing you need to burn out on. Yeah, shooting right from the start was perfect. For one thing, because I had known about this program three months prior. So it was like, I'm itching. I'm ready to get started, and not being allowed to overthink anything, just going out and recognizing that like, yeah, you have to do it. And now it's done. And look at that. That wasn't actually so bad. You did it in an afternoon. You could do this again in another afternoon. I kept it from being theory. Right. I don't know if I had any expectations about how the feedback would be structured. I've taken sketch comedy writing classes. I was in an MFA program, so I wasn't a stranger to the constructive criticism element of getting feedback on your work. What was really helpful for me was like it honed in on what my weaknesses were. So like, after like kind of picking myself up and dusting myself off, being like, yeah, okay. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm, at the end feeling very creatively vulnerable, but at the same time, I haven't felt like that in a while. And it's like, I need that. I need to be told like what's not working and what could be stronger. Yeah, I think the last one I did, it was like I didn't like hit the assignment, and I think like, the little perfectionist in me was like, shoot, like I missed the target, like that's what hurt. And but at the same time, sitting in on other feedback, getting feedback myself, it's already been helpful. Watching the work of my peers, I feel like that's been so eye-opening, because some of them, they're just gorgeous, first and foremost. That's really encouraging and makes me want to elevate my own work. And other people, others, it's like fast and dirty and it's not perfect. And I find that really inspiring. Don't overthink it. This person made a great short with what they had. And what I've noticed for myself is a lot of people really have the technique of getting really beautiful camera shots with what they have, or like they just have like a really good cinematic eye. And yeah, trying to elevate my work for that, because it's the thing of like, I know 3-act structure. I know making a story. I know character, but figuring out like how to make reference videos work for me, that was a huge step. And also going back and watching feedback for other folks. Like someone did a short video with a single egg, and that was something that I ended up doing. It was that sense of like, it's a different story, but what did they learn? And like, what was your feedback to them? And that helped me. It was absolutely helpful to watch prior feedback from past sessions, especially because it's like their video is essentially a video that I'm watching as a reference and resource material. And then on top, it's like, oh, I get a reference and resource video and a talk through of like what worked, what could be stronger. Yeah, it was like I found a cheat code. I love in general group dynamic learning. It's a way to feel less alone while you're also being creatively vulnerable. I find the feedback super helpful, even if maybe, especially if it's not me. Like I didn't even know that, like I didn't know what a digi-zoom was, and now I'm very aware of it, and it's super helpful. Just little things like that. Having the approach was helpful for me me. I think creatively, I am definitely a pantser, at least, as like the novel writing world explains. It's like, are you a pantser or are you a plotter? Like, do you write by the seat of your pants? And what I noticed for myself was I was going methodically through the videos and, kind of treating it like a class of like, okay, I watch the videos, I do the assignment, I go back, I watch the next round of videos. It helped that the videos were only open to me after like a certain week intentionally. But I think they're all open to me now. And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm waiting until I finish this to go do the next round because it has been helpful to get a new focus on filmmaking because that's part of it for me. That, the methodical, list of things to do is one of those things where it's like, I've never been taught that. So whether or not it works for me, like I still need to know where you start and where you end. I mean, what I've noticed is like just having the videos, I'm going back and rewatching them like as they're more focused on what I'm learning at that moment. So like working on sound, I went back and watched the sound and it was like, I know I watched it before, but this time around it was like, oh, okay, this organization, do this. It takes a lot of the decision fatigue out and I'm not doubling the work because you and others have said like, this is a reasonable way to do it. Like start there. And then you might find your own way. But like in the meantime, you don't need to recreate the wheel. Just do this checklist. Doing GTS with a full-time job and the full-time job really spiked in hours for a little while. I felt definitely guilty because I wasn't moving forward at all. For me, at least, what helps is I may have like shot the deadline, but I was still tethered to the community. I would still go to the meetups. I would still be watching the videos when I could. And it was one of those things where work calmed down enough that, like I said, it's like I picked a weekend where it's like, okay, I can film this weekend. My friend said, that's great. You go ahead. And working backwards from that, the tangible results have been, for one thing, I feel like I'm only halfway through as well. Like I feel like there's so much more I can seize from the program, which is very exciting. What I keep feeling with each assignment, with each short video, you shot that in a day. You've got weekends. This is actually so easy, and that makes the confidence and the fun skyrocket for me because again, like I came to this wanting to feel independent as a filmmaker and not rely on other people. The thing with screenwriting is you write this masterpiece and it's a pilot or it's a feature and it sits in the drawer and like maybe someone reads it and maybe it's a good calling card for you as a writer, but what are the chances of it actually getting made? And for me, it's like, well, then what am I doing? What am I doing if it's not getting made? That's the final product. That has just been so nice for me. And also connecting with creative friends who want also, they're like, oh, you're shooting movies. Like, I would love to help. Or like, oh, use my apartment anytime. And growing those connections as well. It's like the most fun playtime for me. I feel like what I've gotten so far is a community of filmmakers, which getting better as a filmmaker. I was thinking earlier about how great it is that, in 2 years' time, I can still be popping into office hours and still be getting some feedback on a thing that I did myself. Long term, I definitely have some ideas of feature-length films. And I think what I'm getting right now is the setup for success by doing these short films. Like if a thing doesn't work, I'm out an afternoon. That's it. That's and with anything, you get what you put into it. I would say it's a good balance of guidance, with the Zoom meetups, with the instructional videos, but then also like you're on your own, which is how it just is with filmmaking. I've had a really great experience of having this community, getting really good constructive feedback, and also just filling in what had been blind spots for me for film production.